Hi everybody, welcome back to our next Lunch and Learn, and we are in beautiful Leaside. Quickly, the boundaries are south of Eglinton on the east side of Bayview. That's where the sort of the heart of Leaside is. So Leaside, it was first settled by a man named John Lee, who was a pioneer farmer who emigrated to Canada from Philadelphia in 1819. And in the 1850s, his eldest son, built an 8-sided house, an octagonal house, and he named the house Leaside. So in 1912, here's a little interesting tidbit. In 1912, the owner of the Canadian Northern Railway, which is now a defunct railway company, they purchased over 1,000 acres in the area, and they planned a community with residential and commercial areas. And the goal of this company was to create Leaside as a new upper class area of Toronto, I guess the new Rosedale, so to speak. Here's a little interesting tidbit too, and I didn't know this about it until I read up on it. In 1917, the federal government, they owned an airstrip towards Laird Drive, which is in the industrial area now, and they called it the Leaside Aerodrome. So this field operated from World War I to World War II, from 1917 to 1944. So while the industrial part of the area took off, by the late 1920s, the residential population was really small, still only about 500 people. And because Leaside was basically cut off from Toronto by the Don River Valley. And it wasn't until they built the Leaside Bridge over the Don River, and they connected sort of Millwood with the top of Pape and Danforth, if you know how sort of the Toronto works. It wasn't until then that Leaside became a viable place to live. Now, the bridge was built in 1927, but there wasn't the internet back then, and it took a while for the word to get out. So the Depression in the 30s, it kind of dampened growth. But by the late 1930s, the population of Leaside really, really started to grow. And many of the houses you see in the neighborhood, and you can see behind us, there's actually some of the original houses. There's the new house, there's even the older bungalows. So many of these houses were built in the 1930s and the 1940s. And by the 1946, just after the war, the population grew from 500, as I said, in the 1920s to over 10,000. So Leaside's especially in high demand, especially with upper and middle income families who value the neighborhood. It's an ideal place to raise kids. It's abundant green space. There's parkland. There's a great selection of schools. And it really is a really great shopping district. There's a shopping district on Bayview that we might go out to. And as I described, there's a shopping district on Laird Drive, which has tons and tons of shops. So there's a good mix of houses, as you can see, as I described. There's mostly detached houses. There's bungalows. There's a few semis as well. And what they've done as well with the growing number of bungalows, they've sort of lopped the top off, and they're building second-story additions. So as far as prices go, again, not too many semis, but they're probably in the 1.4 to 1.6 range. The detached, which really makes up the majority of them, and again, the bulk sort of falls in from the low 2s, 2.2, 2.3, up until about the mid to high 3s, almost $4 million, albeit I can still find stuff that's probably close to $6 million. And there's also a few condos in the area. Generally speaking, they're $500,000 to $1 million, but they are doing at 3 Southdale, they're building $2 to $3 million condos. Anyways, that's it for the neighborhood. I want to go eat. There's an iconic place called Old York Fish and Chips. Let's go and try it out. Okay, we're here on Laird Drive in front of Old York Fish and Chips. I just want to talk quickly here because all this stuff on the east side of Laird used to be industrial, and now they've set up tons and tons of shops to service really all the people in Leaside. And it's got everything. It's got a Home Depot, Home Sense, Canadian Tire, LCBO, banks, restaurants. It's really, really massive, and it's really fantastic. So anyways, about Old York Fish and Chips, what's really interesting, it's been here since 1997, so it's pretty iconic in the neighborhood. But what I thought was cool is that the grandfather in York, England had a fish and chip shop, so it's 3 generations worth. So let's go in and try it. I expect nothing but good things. Okay, we're here on Bayview, but I want to do a quick review on Old York Fish and Chips. I actually really, really liked it. The fish was crispy, and the fries, albeit big, were really crispy too. I would give it like really the other 2 thumbs up that I normally do, but this was really, really good. So visit Old York Fish and Chips. Anyways, I wanted to end our Leaside visit on Bayview Avenue. This was the original commercial spot for Leaside, and it's still beautiful now. Where the one on Laird has great shops, it's not really like a hangout place. This is more of a hangout place too. You can walk up and down the street, mom and pop stores, restaurants, coffee shops, bakeries, small little flower shops. It's fantastic. So come visit Leaside. Anyhow, I love doing these videos. Like, share, and we'll talk soon.